This is the, I believe, the original Petcock for the fuel, because the gentleman that I purchased this from told me that this nut was broken and it took him a long time to find a replacement. This one has a good nut on it, so I'm wondering if perhaps this is the replacement unit. And this nut is left-handed thread on this side onto the Petcock, and then right-handed thread on this side. I guess I'm going to take these apart and see which one looks the nicest. I don't even know. Blow some air through them, clean them up, decide which one I'm going to use. I guess I'll start with the cleanest looking on the outside. O-ring. See, that's got a bevel on it. Very clean. And that's pretty hard. And there's a brass screen in there. Take this nut off. It's pressed in. I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, so this goes back on with a little tab facing to the left with the tube pointing up. And that would be the stop button, or stop tab, I guess, keep it from turning too far. I wonder if this has got an O-ring. I imagine it will. It's got a little looks like some sort of a little keeper. Okay. That's a little rubber, hard rubber piece. There we go, that might come out. Okay, so this has a hole there, a little hole at the top where that's at. A little hole there, and then a bigger hole here, and either a plugged up hole or just a spot. Okay, it's a tab. I had just a little bit of carb cleaner left and didn't spray. Kind of drizzled out, but I was able to take my little brushes and clean it up pretty good. And blew air through it. Nothing gross came out. So, let's see here. Do the easy stuff. This O-ring, I don't have any O-rings. I got various O-rings that I've grabbed off of different things, but nothing that I know that is rated for gasoline. So I'm going to go back with this one. And make sure it's tight. I'll probably go to the parts store and see if I can pick up a new one, because it would be nice. Alright, so now okay, we had the tab to the right, that tab to the right, big one to the bottom. I took this one apart. This one had a wavy washer, which is right here, underneath this, the valve, not handle. But on the one I have that wasn't working, as a broken lip, I assume it's broken. Right here, that was on top. I'm going to go ahead and put our cover over it and screw it down. And then it wouldn't turn, so there we go, look at that. Turns like I would expect it to. So that's the off. So we've got that fixed. I'm pretty much used to not having a parts manual, so I forgot that I have a parts manual. And had I not forgot that, I would have looked and seen that I have this number 19 is the nut, and there's a washer. And over on this side here, it tells you that it is washer, 8mm, nut, 8mm. So I need a washer that can handle some gasoline to put in there. So on this valve, and this one's too small for what I need, but as you can see, it does have a red washer in there, and it basically is cut around this tube, and then this other little tube where you're supposed to have this brass filter strainer screen, which I don't have. Okay, remove that. I just twisted and pulled it out. This is my old one, the donor one I'm not using. And that way I've got this for a pattern. Piece of fuel line. Cut it. You split a piece off. Now, when I broke my pot metal nut, I just can't go get another one because most everybody else has one that's broken as well. What my plan is, and I was recording this a little bit ago and I had some issues, so starting over halfway through it. I have these nuts that are for plumbing. I'm thinking it's for a toilet or a sink, probably a sink. And then this one was a used one that I had saved because I'm like that, I'll save whatever. So I have this step bit, which I don't know how big it goes. I'll measure it here when we get done, but it's gonna go big enough that I'm reaming the inside of this out. It had threads in there, and the plan is to put this so it'll slide into this nut, and then mix up some JB Weld and go ahead and fill that around there to let it fill up with JB Weld and hold it into place, because JB Weld is resistant to gasoline. Actually, it's, I believe, pretty much impervious to gasoline, so we'll be good. So I think I'm just about as deep as I need to go. I made, what I was doing was I just stuck it in a vise and clamped it so I could ream this out. And it's brass, nickel plated or something. But where it did break is right in the section here. There's a space in here where that gasket goes. So if I do get a little JB Weld through these cracks, it ooze into the inside, then I should be able to get in there and kind of trim that out with something if need be. It'll be structurally stronger with this JB welded on there, and I'll still be able to put a wrench on there to tighten it down. And I've got some gasket material I have. I think it's probably gas resistant, so I cut some pieces of it and threw it in a can, bean can with some gas on it, let it soak and see if it's going to degrade or come apart, so then I can make a new gasket. You can see how that step bit actually works. It takes two pieces, or it only cuts so much deep until it catches the next step, so it's got a little bit at the other end that's not as much augered out. There we go. Okay. 0.87. Okay, 7/8 of an inch is what this step bit. 7/8 of an inch, and I bored it all the way down until this got in. Plan 73-B 12.4 calls for a bolt with a washer that's bigger than the hole in the bottom of the nickel-plated nut. And then I have taken the broken pot metal nut and got it so it sets together. And now I'm going to set this on that washer and nut. And then I've got this washer here that won't go all the way through, but doesn't go clear out. It doesn't cover up the whole pot metal nut. And then I'm gonna put this nut on it to hold it in place. Because I'm afraid that if I don't, as I'm trying to work the JB Weld in there, it's going to move. Alternative plan K41 is to put a little bit of JB Weld, now that I got it mixed, on my seam, put it together, and then my two washers, I went ahead and put some non-stick spray. It's actually Pam cooking spray on that washers. I'll go ahead and put it back together. I've got this mixed up. Well, I seriously doubt I'm getting this all the way down. Maybe. I think gravity will help. Because I know different times when I've JB welded something and didn't want it to run down, it does, so it takes like 4 hours to set up. Yeah, there's no way I could have done this without the washer and then not. Yeah, it's already starting to work its way down. So, okay, I'm gonna leave it alone. Give it 3 or 4 hours and then take that, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I'll take that nut and washer loose. It's been a while and I pulled the toothpick off the paper. It's sticking fairly good. So I took the washers off and then held it up and looked underneath, and there is not JB Weld all the way down. And it's, I think, thick enough now that it's not going to want to migrate further down with gravity. So there's the second batch. I gave it probably a little over an hour, and it was, you know how JB Weld is, kind of pretty goopy yet, but not running. I turned it over and you could see, you know, a lot of area that needed filled in. So I mixed up some more. Well, first I stuffed some Kleenex down in the middle to keep from getting my threads all full of goop, JB Weld I mean, and then took this little bitty wire, phone wire, tiny stuff, and it's stiff but little, and then I mixed it with a toothpick and then put some on there and then just worked it in down with this, and I noticed that it was still soft enough, the first batch, that I could rock it back and forth a little bit and get it centered again, because I moved it with my wire and I got it centered, and then I mixed up 2 little batches. I got this much left over here, and so I mixed up about that much before, right here, this much before. So my second batch on this upside down, I got a little bit left over because it didn't take much. Most of it wound up sticking to my fingers and to the cardboard, but I do think I've got it worked all the way down, because I thought I had it all on the second time, and then I was looking at it and I was like, oh, it's settling. So I let it settle a little bit, and then I mixed up some more and then worked it down. So if it's going to settle, it'll settle overnight, and then I can do a fourth little bit mixed up. Here's where we're at this morning. I think I'm going to obviously let it dry until night after work, but I think probably wouldn't hurt to try to get just a little bit more in here. It does have a little bitty crack. Where did I see it? Right here. Which only goes through to that center. I'm really afraid that's going to just leak gas, just run through that. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I wished I would have paid attention and tried to spread that apart before I put it together and got some JB weld inside of it. But I'll think on that a little bit. Took a hacksaw blade and cut through that crack. I didn't go all the way through towards the center. I kind of angled it towards the back to get deeper into that crack. Didn't get quite through to the other side of it, but I'm not seeing the crack anymore. So I think I may have the crack all the way cut out. So then when I mix up my JB weld for this side, I'll fill it up with Kleenex, JB weld that up, fill this crack, and then let it start to get set up, and then take a little pick and clear out the threads. Fill it up with some JB weld. Finish filling the top in, the low spots, and I'm just going to let her set. Got a good 10 hours of dry on this since I put the last coat on, built it up. Which side? This side here, let the low spots filled in, and then on this crack I've got a good, pretty good finish on that. Filled that in. What I wound up doing was taking my little pick and setting and worrying away at it, like so, until I could get it all smoothed out in those threads. Because I think it says on the tube 14 hours and 14 to 24 hours or something like that. So this still has a little bit of, it's a little soft, a little workable. Then I just took some sandpaper and just kind of, sanded off the high part sticking over. And then I screwed it on the tank, and it screws on. And I screw it on here, and it screws on. The only thing is, probably backwards here. Heck. Okay. Yeah, this is the side. The only thing is we have, well, I say it screws on, it did. I'm just being silly here. Oops. So that's flaking off. I better leave it alone. There. Screws on here. You can feel that it's just a little snug when we come across that patch. But it does screw on. And this side screws onto the tank also. But it's not perfectly square in this nut. It kind of flexes a little bit. That's okay. It'll work. I hope. So then I've got this piece of, it's supposed to be gas and oil resistant valve cover. Well, it's just bulk, blank piece. So I cut it. The book said it's a 8mm washer. And so I ballparked an 8mm and then punched a hole in the middle and used the rat tail file to keep making it bigger until it set down in here pretty fair. Looks like it's gonna work around the and now, since I know this is supposed to be gas resistant, I want to make sure that it doesn't start leaking in 6 months anyway. So I'm going to take that case sealer. I'm going to take this Moto Seal gasket maker. It's fuel resistant, and I'm going to coat this, and it'll stay rubbery, I believe. So I'm going to coat this on all sides and seal it away from any fuel, and it should still allow this to compress a little bit and seal my tank and my valve. And probably when I get ready to put it on the tank for good, I'll probably put some of this on here and on the inside of this nut, just to help seal it, and in that way, I mean, it'll still come loose, I believe. But that's my plan. There it is. Directions on the tube tell you to put it on for a case to seal, make a case gasket. You put it on both sides and then smear it around with a brush, let it dry for a minute, and then put it together. So I figured that this will dry in a few hours, and by the time that JB weld is complete and total and as hard as it's going to get cured, this should be ready to go. So this is just a piece of little brazen rod I got, just to hold it from sitting on the floor. This is the gasket material. I got it from AutoZone years ago. It's just a cork, and I can't remember what I used it on. I think I used it on a gas filter bowl on a 1947 white truck. But anyhow, it's supposed to be resistant to oil and gas. Resistance different than impervious, so that's why I went ahead and put that sealer on. But here is the gasket setting in there that I made. As you can see, the reserve is right there. I kind of wonder if this is a little bit too small of a hole in the middle, where this may compress down and my reserve may not really work well. But I hate to get it too much smaller. But if I have to trim it smaller, I will. but we'll give it a try and see.